What is going on, my loveliest FreeMelons? Thank you so much for joining me here on the FreeMelon Society once again. I'm Martyr, and without any delay, let's talk about mushrooms. Mushrooms, again, staple of the plant-based eating community. There's a lot to be said about mushrooms. A lot of the health benefits associated with them are touted in every single article. It's all out there. Mushrooms are great. Mushrooms are anti-cancer. Mushrooms. Okay. So today, what I want to do is I want to give an approach to this subject that honestly, I can't find anywhere on YouTube or any other discussion. I'm going to present this information like I always do. I'm going to take it step by step and go ultra logically using very, very, very basic rudimentary common sense so that you can frame this understanding in a way that allows you to screen out a lot of the riffraff. Okay, so here we go. Mushrooms, are they good for you? Should you avoid them? What's the deal with mushrooms? Let's start. I want to start with the bare basics, okay? So the first thing we're going to do is we are going to get onto the same page. We're going to start with some general facts that everyone can understand. And we all need to agree with these before we move on to the next part of the lecture, okay? So let's start. Mushrooms are funguses, okay? They are the fungal agent in nature, okay? The role of funguses in the natural order of the world are the agents of breakdown and the agents of decay. They are the phyto-undertakers, the phyto-decomposers of organic, dead, and dying material. If you saw my other lecture, I did a lecture very recently on the nature of viruses and bacteria and how they live in your body and that they're normal, natural, and necessary. Okay, so if you haven't watched that lecture, that's a very important lecture. I highly suggest you go and watch that one as well. If you haven't, that's okay. We're gonna move forward on this. But that is the role of funguses in the natural world. Okay, like any system, you need a designated class of either workers or something to get rid of and deal with the waste matter of that system. Okay. The city would not be a very pretty city if we had no means of garbage elimination or garbage disposal. Garbage would just pile up and it would be disgusting. You eat, you must eliminate. Okay, so you have agents in your body that are responsible for breaking down that organic matter and eliminating it. Okay, turning it into something that's usable in your body and then getting rid of the riffraff. So this is every organic system. On the macroscopic level, in the forest, in nature, okay, that job, that responsibility of dealing with dead and dying material falls upon the fungal family, the family of funguses. That is their particular role. Okay. So far you're with me. Mushrooms are funguses. All funguses exist in microform shape inside every single living cell. They are inherent in every single cell of organic matter. And when they receive appropriate signals coming into the cell, that there is dead and dying material out there upon which to feed and upon which to do work of decomposition, then those microforms will evolve, bud out of the cells, and go and get to work, evolving into more and more and more complex forms, depending on the level of toxicity, depending on the degree of organic dead and dying material there is to do, that there is to work on. Okay? So far you're with me. All right? Mushrooms are funguses. Funguses are agents of decay and breakdown of dead, rotting material. And the more dead and rotting material, the more complex the type of fungus will become. Okay, the more complexity the fungus will develop into if there's a lot of food for it to eat. Okay, so far you're with me. If these simple facts can't be agreed upon, I stop watching the lecture now, or just do some simple research on mushrooms, and you'll have to agree with these. Okay, in the human body, funguses do the exact same thing. They serve the exact same purpose in the body as they do out in nature. The same purpose. They only show up when there's dead and dying and rotting and decomposing material in the context of an acidic environment, right? That stimulates them into growth, that says, holy crap, this place is acidic. Let's go to work and clean it up. Then the funguses come to life and you have a bacterial or fungal infection, right? And that infection is very unsightly. So what we do is we throw pharmacological agents inside our body in order to delete and get rid of the bacteria and the fungus, not really addressing the underlying cause of what caused their impetus for growth. Okay. So, like I said before, there's a certain evolution of microforms in the body depending on how much acidic waste, toxic material, dead and dying, rotting material is there to be worked upon. So, at the very beginning stage, you might have just the little microforms inside the cells. And then if they receive the appropriate signal, they would bud out and become types of bacteria. And then the bacteria would evolve into their next form, which would be a yeast. And then the yeast would evolve into a next form if there's more material to work on, which would become a fungus. And then if there's more material, then the fungus will continue to overgrow, which will become a more deadly form of that species called mold. Okay, so you've got bacteria, fungus, or yeast, fungus, and then mold. So far you're with me, okay? I hope you can accept this. Hey, have you ever had toe fungus? What was that like? Okay, was it pretty? Was it nice? Did you want to get rid of it? Did every sensibility in your psyche say something is wrong here? Yes, of course it did, because you're an intelligent person. You're an intelligent species. You're not stupid, right? You know that something is wrong if toe fungus has appeared on your body. Have you ever had a yeast infection? How did it feel? Did the yeast infection feel nice? Did it feel good? Did it feel like something's wrong? Yes, of course, something is wrong if you have the yeast infection. Have you ever had any other type of bacterial or fungal growth on your body? Did it feel good? How did you feel about it? Did it innately seem like something is wrong? Yes. Something was wrong, okay? There was an internal poisoning that your body now has to deal with, okay? And it is giving you the consequences of the lifestyle behaviors that you either didn't realize were bad, or you knew were bad, or whatever. Mother Nature doesn't care. It's just going to do what law dictates, okay? Regardless of whether you're aware of what you're doing or not aware. Let's see some examples. All right, here we go. This is some bacterial overgrowth. Pretty gross. Here we have another one. Here's another example. You can just jump onto Google, type in bacterial overgrowth, fungal overgrowth. You'll find all sorts of these. You know, look at this. This was a juicy one. Here we go. There's another one. All bacterial overgrowths. All fungal overgrowths. There we go. There's another fungal overgrowths. Only showing up when there is rotting material to be worked on. When there's dead and dying, non-usable material to work on in an acidic environment. They only show up then. Okay? Bacterial, fungal overgrowths. Okay? So, that's how it works. They are the sole agents of breakdown and decay. So far, I hope you're with me. What happens when you die? Okay, when you die, your body ceases to maintain the alkaline environment. Okay, CO2 builds up. Organic material starts to decay. The acidic environment takes over. That is a signal to viruses, molds, and bacteria to start to evolve and decompose your body into a broken down set of mineral elements that can now be redistributed into the soil and reconstituted to fuel further growth. Okay? That's just what happens. Okay, great. So now we've gotten all of the bare facts out of the way that are undeniably true. Undeniably true. Okay, now the second part here is we have to apply the facts that we observably know. Apply those facts to mushrooms in a dietary sense. Okay? Again, and I have to stress this because it becomes very important. You must understand the nature of a thing And if you can do that, if you do that, understand the nature of the thing, the illusions surrounding it simply just dissipate. And it doesn't matter what sort of funny or silly opinions get thrown at you, because the undeniable nature is known of the thing. I don't care how many ads I see for the Olympics being sponsored by McDonald's, and how McDonald's says, pure, grass-fed, healthy, whatever. Okay, I know what McDonald's is. I know what the business model is. There's no illusions about this. So it doesn't matter how many McDonald's ads, it doesn't matter how many people in the world eat McDonald's every day. I will never be fooled by a McDonald's ad. Okay, do you understand? Ask anyone why they eat mushrooms. Why would they eat mushrooms? Almost invariably, one of the things that is first out of the mouth is, well, you've heard it before, loaded with nutrients. Loaded with nutrients, or loaded with this or this or this, or they have this, and this in the mushroom. It's almost all the time. This is going to be justification number one for eating mushrooms. This is true. Yes. The mushrooms have a very particular role, like we said above. And in order to service nature with its role, the makeup of the mushroom has to contain a lot of genetic information, a lot of dense enzymes and minerals and whatnot to be able to do the role that they have to do. Okay? Does that mean all of those nutrients are accessible to your body when you eat them? No, not necessarily. Have you ever tried to graze in a field like a cow? The cow can derive ample nutrition from the grass, and it does it for its whole entire life, and it's perfectly fine. All the ruminants can just graze in the field and be perfectly satisfied with the dense nutrition that they find in the wild grasses. Why don't you do that? Since there is a dense abundance of nutrition in the grasses. You don't do it because you're not an herbivore, and you don't have the digestive and physiological machinery necessary to be able to deal with the grasses, with the wild grasses, even though they're loaded with nutrients. Because if you tried to eat them, they would go into your body, the nutrients would not be available to your human physiology, and you would just get rid of them and you would not gain much nutrition. Mushrooms are the same thing. In fact, mushrooms are an even lower, inferior form of evolved type of vegetation than the wild grasses. They grow in the darkness. They grow underground. They are not seen. They do not need infusions of life-sustaining sunlight in which to grow, or with which to grow. They don't need that. Right? Why? Because they need to be in the shadows, in the darkness. They need to be able to survive off of dead material. Right? Higher evolved forms of vegetation require higher forms of energy. The sun, okay? The air, the water, all that kind of stuff. Mushrooms too, but they just don't need the sunlight, okay? So technically speaking, grasses would be a better option. But as it turns out, mushrooms are almost completely indigestible. They will go into your system one way and they will come out almost the exact same way. Your body does not know what to do with mushrooms. Your body will see a mushroom coming down the tubes and it'll say, and that's it, right? It just, you can't digest them. They're totally indigestible. So all of these dense nutrients that are packed into the mushroom, unfortunately, because you don't have digestive physiology to be able to extract and absorb those nutrients efficiently, most of them are completely unavailable to you. So it doesn't matter what you see on something like a chronometer or something. Most of that nutrition doesn't get into your cells. And so that they're packed with nutrition. Well, goddammit, an oak tree is packed with nutrition. But why don't you eat an oak tree? Because you're not a mushroom. You're a human being. You can't eat the oak tree. But if the oak tree starts to die and you were a mushroom, maybe then the oak tree turns into food for your species. But if you want to play the nutrient game, eat as many oak trees as you like, because they're loaded with minerals and enzymes and fiber and all sorts of amazing stuff. Now, of course, the common refrain, okay, but Eli, we cook the mushrooms before we eat them. Yeah, people do eat mushrooms raw. You shouldn't. But, most people prepare or cook their mushrooms before they eat them. And if you do eat them, I would suggest you do the same. Here's what you have to ask yourself, though. If you have to prepare them, if you have to cook them in order to neutralize their toxic components, if you have to do that, why do we rationalize that it's a good idea to do so when we have foods available to our physiology that do not require this level of trickery? It becomes very important to recognize what you are and what nature created you to do, right? And be sensitive to your, again, limitations and endowments as an organic being. Okay, I mentioned mycotoxins. Let me explain that a little bit further. In their raw form, mushrooms are completely indigestible to you. Herbert Shelton, I remember, made a comment where he says, eating mushrooms is like trying to eat bootstraps. They're just wildly indigestible. You need to do stuff to them before they're even remotely digestible, and even still, you don't absorb the nutrition from them. All mushrooms, contrary to popular belief, are toxic. All of them. All of them by default. They're all toxic. They all acidify the body. The difference between edible mushrooms and the mushrooms that kill you is simply a matter of degree. All mushrooms contain a compound called ammanitins. They all have ammanitins in them. The ones with the higher concentrations of that poison will kill you. The ones with the lower concentration will simply not do well for your body. They're there and they're poisons. They need to be eliminated, but they just don't kill you immediately. Okay? Mushrooms are simply the fruiting body. So just like the apple tree, right? The fruit of the apple tree is what you eat. Okay. The mushroom is the fruiting body of its more devolved form of yeast. Okay. So you have yeast, and depending on the level of toxicity in the environment, they can grow into a more complex fruiting form, which is the fungus, the mushroom. If you've ever had any experience with a house inspection where the house inspector finds mold or mold residues, okay? Why is it that they have to kick you out of the house? Why do they have to get a unit in there to completely fumigate the place? Completely fumigate. Why? When mushrooms and funguses eat, when they're decomposing, when they're eating all of that toxic material so that they can turn it into something usable, they excrete stuff as well. And it's those excretions that are responsible for the adverse effects that you see in your body when you have a fungal overgrowth. So when you have the yeast infection, when you got the toe fungus, okay, it's their excretions that we on the surface experience as very unpleasant. It is those same excreta, those mycotoxins that are so deadly in a room full of mold. Okay, mold being the more highly evolved form of fungus. And so you can't be in that room. You'll be just breathing them in, and there's a danger of them settling down, even if there's tiny minute elements that they could latch onto and start eating in your system, then they'll start to do that, which is why they're very dangerous. Okay, so you need to clear all fungal molds and residues from your apartment. We know this. We know this. This is not revelation here. What else? What else do people say? Okay, so we have the studies. Okay, but the studies show this. The studies show this and this and this. Yes. The studies do show lots of benefits of eating mushrooms. These studies are always carried out in the context of a relation to a regular RDA, a regular diet that majority of people eat. Okay? They never compare the addition of mushrooms to individuals or a population of individuals that eat the Adam and Eve diet. Okay? Because if you eat the Adam and Eve diet, you will have no use for mushrooms in your body. In relation to what the average population eats, a diet of plant-based foods with mushrooms is infinitely superior because, again, health exists on a spectrum where at one pole you have just the most adulterated, depraved nonsense, and on the other end you have Adam and Eve in the Garden of Eden, right? So you can slot yourself anywhere in there. Any combination will fit you in somewhere. So yes, eating mushrooms can show that they have anti-cancer, anti-this properties and whatnot. The question you have to ask yourself is that knowing what you observably know to be absolutely undeniably true about the role of funguses in the natural world, does it make sense that you, as a frugivorous being, would have to eat mushrooms in order to gain some benefit that you could not otherwise get from your natural diet? From the natural diet that requires no specialized knowledge to safeguard you from the dangers of, you recognize that, if you're going to go wild mushroom picking, you need to know very, very well ahead of time because a lot of mushrooms, most mushrooms out there are poisonous, right? They don't do well. You can't just go out and eat mushrooms. You need to know exactly what you're doing. You do not need to know exactly what you're doing if you're eating fruits that are growing, right? If you stumble upon some fruits that are not as sweet or whatnot, it's just tiny fractions of bitterness that you would just spit out and you're like, whatever. Not as dangerous. So to answer that question, are mushrooms giving you any benefit, giving you any nutritional, any antioxidant, any anti-cancer fighting advantage over the simple fruits and vegetables? The answer is no, they do not. They do not convey any special advantage to your body that cannot be derived in a better, cleaner form from fruits and vegetables and even nuts. Okay? So, to wrap this up, the problem is that we are confronted with cognitive dissonance in our relationship to mushrooms. We have a sphere of knowledge, of observable knowledge that we absolutely know to be true, as per the first part of this lecture. We know what mushrooms do in nature. We know what their role is. We know that they're agents of decay. We know that they only show up to decompose matter. We know that they're phyto undertakers in nature. They don't serve any purpose but to feast on rotting dead material. We know that. Okay? But suddenly, when we go into the dietary field and we take those same agents of decay, we experience this cognitive dissonance that we do not want to be honest to ourselves with, because the texture and stimulation that we get in our mouths when we eat mushrooms, cooked, seasoned, and combined with all sorts of other flavors so that we cleverly disguise their taste, we like the taste. So we're not willing to ascribe what we know to be true about the role of mushrooms and funguses in nature to what we are eating. Do you see how that works? So that is the problem, ladies and gentlemen. It is being honest about what the actual thing is and our behavior that we don't really want to give up because it's stimulating in the mouth, And again, generally speaking, you are contriving tastes and textures so that they're palatable. You're never eating raw mushrooms. You're never just like grabbing a handful of mushrooms and going, ow. Who's doing that? Nobody. You're always eating them in the context of a big salad with seasonings and whatever, and sauces and oils. It's just the texture, that chewy, texture in your mouth that's pleasing, if mixed with other flavors that take it away from what it actually is, which is a mushroom. Okay? And I know that. You know that. When would you use mushrooms? If mushrooms are required for you to stay in the plant world, right, to avoid other things that are worse, eat as many mushrooms as you want. Okay, no limitations. Go nuts. Eat as many of them as you want. And again, it's plant matter. It's plant material. It's going to be better for you, and it's going to give you health benefits over an otherwise worse stimulating diet of cooked oils and cooked salts and cooked salts. Cooked oils and cooked, animal products and, eggs and dairy, God forbid, and cheeses and whatnot, and processed junk food. Yeah, it's an infinitely better choice. And if you need mushrooms in order to help your transition into a better diet, use them. Use them to high up. Hey, they're a good treat. I have used them. They can taste very good. They can make for very interesting flavors and interesting dishes. Use them. What I'm trying to teach you is to be honest about what it is you're eating and to have no illusions about what you're eating. Don't be fooled into believing that you're eating something that is just as ideal for you as fruits and, you know, leafy green veggies or whatnot, because it's not the case. But if you want to eat them as an occasional thing, do it. Yeah, sure. Just understand that it's not ideal, okay? And that you definitely shouldn't be doing it all the time so that your body can recover from the damage done. But, you know, use them, have fun with them. Yeah, it's okay. It's not gonna kill you, but just understand what they are and understand what it is so that you're not led astray. That's all I'm saying. Okay. One of the you know what? A great thing about mushrooms is that if you cook them in a pan, they actually do release a lot of hydration themselves. So one of the great things about mushrooms in a stir fry or whatnot is that you don't need oil. You don't need oil, you don't need water. You can just put them in the pan, add some heat, and then they start releasing all of this wonderful mushroom juice, and then you can add your other veggies in there and make a wonderful saute or bok choy or whatever. Add all kinds of stuff in there, and the mushrooms add a lot of their flavor when you cook them up. So that's a fantastic use for mushrooms. Okay, so you can get creative, and they help you avoid other damaging foods. So that is a good use for mushrooms. Okay, again, you do that, not forgetting any of the other stuff that we went over in this lecture. Okay. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you enjoyed. I hope you learned something from this. And if you like these videos, then make sure to subscribe to the FreeMelon Society. Help keep me alive. I tried to upload some another video previously, but it was immediately blocked and taken down. So I thought that kind of sucks. I'm going to try to start uploading on BitChute as well. But anyway, give this a thumbs up. Help support the channel if you like the content. And that's it. I'll see you guys next time on the FreeMelon Society.